hard segmented skeleton on the outside of the body, jointed legs, well-developed eyes, specialized mouth parts, and the ability to fly. That's the insects. It's these basic features that have contributed to their success. Over 1 million different species, which between them can eat many different kinds of food and live in almost any terrestrial habitat. Biting mouthparts are the basic and most common type. But they're not just found in vegetarians. The predatory mantis grasps its prey with its front legs, but its mouthparts are similar to those of a locust. Aphids feed in a different way. With their piercing mouthparts, they reach sap within a plant stem. The froghopper feeds in the same way and uses surplus liquids from its rather dilute meal to make a protective shelter, cuckoo spit. The assassin bug, which also has piercing mouthparts, is a predator that sucks animal juices. Mouthparts of this type are a characteristic feature of the bugs, the order Hemiptera. One problem with having an exoskeleton is that, rather like a suit of armor, it has a fixed volume. Growing insects molt several times. Having produced a soft new skeleton underneath, the bush cricket splits the old one and clambers out. It inflates its body, stretching the new skeleton before it hardens. In some insects, the bush crickets and the mantids, the eggs hatch into young insects looking very like their parents and eating the same food. They are exopterygotes. Aphids are also exopterygotes, but some are viviparous. They give birth to miniature aphids. The adult cicada is winged, so its final molt must be slightly different from earlier ones, as the wing buds need to be expanded. The wings must also harden before the insect can fly. These eggs were laid by insects with a very different life history, endopterygotes. The caterpillars that emerge may eat more than their own weight in a day. They sometimes begin with the chitinous eggshell itself. A fast-growing caterpillar can't stretch its skin, so it molts 4 or 5 times in its life. Speeding up the picture, we can see the whole process, including color changes. Eventually, the caterpillar can be 1,000 times heavier than it was at first. In the final molt, the caterpillar transforms into a pupa. This is a resting stage, during which the tissues are rearranged in a complicated process of metamorphosis. What emerges from this pupa isn't a caterpillar, but a butterfly. Caterpillars are the growing and feeding stage of the order Lepidoptera. They have biting jaws and cause great damage to plants. The adult butterflies are quite different in habit. They sip nectar from flowers through an extensible sucking proboscis. Flying from flower to flower, they may transfer pollen that is stuck to their bodies. Ladybirds are carnivorous beetles that specialize in eating aphids. So do a number of other predatory insects, such as the hoverfly larva. With their rapid reproduction, aphid colonies form an important link in the food web based on plants. A hoverfly larva might eat 1,000 aphids before it pupates. But this braconid wasp is a special sort of predator. The female lays an egg inside a young aphid, which continues to feed and grow. The wasp's egg hatches into a larva that slowly eats away the growing aphid's insides. Eventually, the aphid dies, and the wasp pupates within its mummified corpse, emerging later as an adult. So during its life, this braconid consumed only a single aphid. Some insect-plant relationships can be very complicated. This young fig contains many small flowers, some male, some female. A female fig wasp burrows in, carrying on her body pollen from another fig. In some of the female flowers, she lays an egg, and at the same time, she pollinates other female flowers. The larvae feed on the plant tissues, and wingless males emerge first. They mate with the female wasps that are still inside their pupal cases, and then they make a burrow to the outside. Air enters the fig through this burrow, triggering the hatching of the female wasps. Male flowers now open inside the fig, and each female wasp collects pollen and carries this off to another fig to continue the cycle. More familiar pollinators are the bees. While they're collecting nectar with their long mouth parts, pollen sticks to their bodies and can be transferred to other flowers. Some flowers are elegantly adapted for their visitors. The stamens bend down as the bee probes for nectar inside this salvia flower. Honeybees form complex societies containing many individuals, each with their own specific task. The older worker bees carry nectar and pollen back to the hive, where they're stored separately in wax cells. The queen is the only fertile female in the hive. Surrounded by workers, she crawls over the brood cells, laying egg after egg. The eggs develop into legless grubs, and these subsequently pupate within their cell, changing into the adult form. These are actually worker cells. The queens and drones grow in larger cells, and the queens are fed on special food. The success of the colony depends on complex behavior patterns and interactions between individual bees. One of the tasks of young worker bees inside the hive is to build the comb. Producing the wax themselves from glands on their abdomen, they mold it into the familiar hexagonal honeycomb cells. If the temperature gets too high, bees ventilate the hive by fanning their wings at its entrance. Invaders of the hive are attacked and may even be killed. The ants are another group of social insect. Tropical army ants make no permanent nest, but carry their grubs with them. They're ferocious predators. Other animals get out of their way as quickly as possible. By sheer weight of numbers, they can kill and dismember insects that are much larger than themselves. Here, a living bridge gets the column over a difficult gap, a beautiful example of communication and cooperation between individuals. Aphids take in a surplus of sugary solution and pass the excess unchanged through their anus. This honeydew is highly prized by certain species of ants, and they protect the aphid colony from other insects. Tropical leafcutter, or parasol ants, cut out large pieces of leaves with their scissor-like jaws. Then they carry the pieces back to their nest. In an underground garden, the leaves are used as a compost in which the ants plant a special fungus. This develops fruiting bodies on which the ants feed their larvae. The beetles, the order Coleoptera, have forewings or elytra, which are hard protective covers under which the rear wings fold when not in use. This prevents them getting damaged or dirty. Beetles include the largest number of known insect species. The adults are easily recognized as coleopterans because of their elytra. This Australian dung beetle is burying a pellet of possum dung before laying an egg on it. The larva will grow up in safety with plenty of food. Beetles have biting mouthparts, and the larvae and adults generally eat the same kind of food. For example, the larvae of the ladybird and the adult both eat aphids. In the two-winged flies, the order Diptera, it's the front wings that are used for flight. The rear wings have become gyroscopic balancing organs, the halteres. This is the most advanced insect order, and their legless larvae show great diversity. Blood-sucking mosquitoes have aquatic larvae, which are common in stagnant water and breathe at the water surface. This rat-tailed maggot also breathes at the surface, but through a telescopic tail. The adult is a hoverfly that eats pollen. But this hoverfly has a different kind of larva, an aphid-eating maggot. But when these maggots become adult, they'll be houseflies. Many animals that eat insects hunt them by sight, so camouflage is often an advantage. Here's a bush cricket, looking like a leaf. While this, if you can spot it, is a stick insect. The emperor moth's false eyes may easily startle predators. While these conspicuous colors warn that the caterpillar is really poisonous. Some insects rely on bluff. Hoverflies don't sting, but this one looks like a wasp. This curious insect, a mantispid, has the warning colors of a wasp and forelegs that look like a mantis, though it's not actually related to either. Camouflage can also help insects to capture their prey. This isn't part of a flower, it's a mantis, a hunter, that lies hidden in ambush. Most insects are superb flying animals as adults, the product of metamorphosis. The early stages are wingless, and part of the reason for their great diversity of habitats is that larvae often lead very different lives from adults. To be born once is amazing, but to be born for a second time as a completely different individual must surely be one of nature's greatest miracles.